Hello, friends. In just a moment, we are going to begin the service for Mrs. Helene Chaseman. I ask if you have a cellular device or any noise-making device, please turn it on off position. Officiating today's service is funeral celebrant Michelle Rose.
Good afternoon, everyone. In addition to being a life cycle celebrant, I'm also a friend of Stuart's. On behalf of Stuart, it is my sad honor to welcome each of you with gratitude and appreciation for showing your support with your presence here today. Only a few of us were able to gather last year to celebrate Helene's life, and it means a lot to Stuart that so many of you are able to attend today because Helene deserves a bigger ceremony to celebrate her life. As Helene died during the pandemic, we now are able to give her the proper service celebrating her life, even after mourning her loss for a year. I would like to ask you to really be present in this moment. We gather here as Helene's community, as we take in the warmth of the people all around us, in person and virtually. I hope that you may find some comfort in that. As we begin our service, I think that Helene, selfless, giving, and caring person that she was, would want to be celebrated rather than mourned. So we will begin with a prayer of faith. We trust that beyond absence, there is a presence, that beyond the pain, there can be healing, that beyond the brokenness, there can be wholeness, that beyond the anger, there may be peace, that beyond the hurting, there may be forgiveness, that beyond the silence, there may be the word, that beyond the word, there may be understanding, that through understanding, there is love. An ancient Hebrew proverb tells us, "Say not in grief she is no more, but live in thankfulness that she was." For that reason, thankful to have had Helene in our lives, we remember her as the devoted daughter of the late Sam and Blanche Weiss, as the caring sister of the late Elise Weiss, as the beloved wife of the late Edward Chaseman, and as the loving mother of Stuart Chaseman. She is also missed by many other extended family members and friends. Later on in today's service, I will invite any of you who wish to do so to share your memories of Helene with the rest of us. It is traditional to read a woman of valor from Proverbs 31 at the funeral of a Jewish woman. I read a contemporary version of Helene at Helene's graveside service, and I would like to now read it again as it is so appropriate for her. A Woman of Valor by Eric S. Kingston. A woman of valor makes the world change. Her strength is the content that guides through the days, defined by her actions that bring light to all dreams. Valor is something that's defined by her deeds. Her valor is golden, sparkled, and gray. She stands up to the challenge no matter the way. It can't be held back or defined by her age. Yes, a woman of valor makes the world change. For valor is not held by the young or the old, but by the deeds of the heart that give and unfold. It's merit and honor that hold no disguise, like the creation of being in the blessed Holy One's eyes. For valor is the color of the song of her soul, as she changes, creates, and turns light into gold. Divine is her presence, be it joyous or sad. A woman of valor may offer little, but it will be all that she has. For only her heart will know the depths of her soul that nurtures and blossoms and forever unfolds, and holds in its essence new life and new gain. Yes, a woman of valor makes the world change. A woman of valor makes the world change. For time immemorial, people have philosophized about the meaning of life. According to Deepak Chopra, a well-known Indian-born American author and motivational speaker, a life of purpose reveals the purpose of life. According to the Dalai Lama, the highest spiritual leader of Tibet, our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. Both of these explanations define how Helene lived her life, how she defined her purpose in life. She made the world change for all the members of her family. She shopped and ran errands for her parents when needed. She took care of her mother after her father died, and she took care of her younger sister, Elise, while their parents worked in the family grocery store. After marrying her late husband, Edward, he became her entire world, expanding that world to include Stuart when he was born. She would do anything for them. As an only child, Stuart knew she spoiled him. He considered himself, this is a direct quote from Stuart, ridiculously spoiled. Oh, you're nodding your head, okay. They know you, Stuart. Everything Helene did was to please others. Her greatest happiness came from caring for Ed and Stuart. She was super wife and super mom. It seems that Stuart's friends were also aware of this. For example, when one of Stuart's friends asked his parents for a specific toy, they responded with, "Go to Stuart's house to play with that toy. And if you and Stuart then like it, we may get it for you." The words that Stuart used to describe Helene are loving, dependable, empathetic, caring, and compassionate. These qualities served her well, not only as a wife and mother, but also in her chosen profession as a teacher. Some of her teaching positions were as a fifth grade teacher and as a preschool director for the Skokie Park District. She was able to have her schedules changed to match Ed's schedule so they could share their days off, because whatever Ed wanted, Helene wanted. After being a mother, she was proudest of her role as a teacher, and her students benefited greatly from her devotion, as did the other teachers she mentored. She even won an award that previously had only been given to principals, and Stuart just said, "That's the award right there." What a nice honor. When she taught in a Hispanic neighborhood, the students there all admired her because she found ways to relate to her students that demonstrated how much she cared for them, despite cultural differences. For example, she enjoyed talking with her female students about fashion. She was also very well liked by her students' parents. Stuart, I now invite you to come here and share some memories of your mother, please.
Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. As you can imagine, I was busy today, but probably not with what you think. I got sidetracked arguing whether or not COVID is a liberal conspiracy with a former bass player of mine. And I just, at the end of when my time is coming, I'm looking back, I don't want to think I didn't spend enough time arguing politics on Facebook. So I might want to make sure to prioritize that. Thank you for coming here today. You know, it's an odd thing because my mom died a year and a half ago now, and I wasn't even sure if this was an appropriate service or not to have. And for one, my mom deserves a proper service to honor her life. And for two, a lot of people told me that I needed today, that I needed this service for closure on what I went through and what my mom went through. I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I'm ever going to get closure on what we went through. It just seems so unfair to me in a world with a benevolent higher power that not only were both my parents taken from me young, but for those of you who didn't witness it, that my mom would have to go through what she went through the last 3 years of her life. At 70 years old, I compare to my mom like to Cher at 70 years old. And she was beautiful. If I was out in public with my mom, not only would people think we were a couple, but they would think, wow, that guy really is dating out of his league. She had the most fashionable clothes, her makeup, everything. And by 71, she couldn't use the washroom on her own. She couldn't wipe herself. She couldn't talk hardly. It would be very hard to understand her. She couldn't walk. She was wheelchair bound. She couldn't feed herself. I had to hire a caregiver for her full time, and eventually, when it was too much for the caregiver, that we put her in a nursing home. And I struggle with issues like that. I don't know why someone as good as my mom should have had that happen to her, and I will always struggle with that. But my mom never stopped caring and looking out for other people despite the condition she was in. I went to the nursing home. I don't know if she even realized it, but she was in the last year and a half of her life. She was at Lieberman's. I went there every single day. I missed occasionally. I felt she put so much energy into me and my dad that it was the least I could do for that period of my life. And believe me, if you have a loved one in a place like that and you don't constantly advocate for them, it's just not a good situation the way seniors are treated in our community, in our country when they get old. And I went there one day, and the music therapist came every once in a while from the hospice group to play music. And she said, "Oh, I'm a little bit intimidated because I heard you're a musician." I'm like, "Oh, no big deal." And my mom couldn't really communicate much at that point, and she gave me the guitar, and we sang songs and stuff that we thought my mom would like. And then suddenly my mom starts trying to say something, and my mom kind of gave up on talking because it was so frustrating to her because no one could understand what she said. And so when she said something, you knew it was important. You knew you had to put all your effort into. And I'm like, wait, she has something she needs to say. And we stop, and I lean and I go, "What is it, Mom? What do you need? Is there something I have to get you? Is there something you need? Are you sick? Do you not feel good?" And she goes, "Stuart, maybe you should offer her a glass of water or something," to the musician woman, because that's the way she was. She was always thinking about other people, and I'd let her down by not doing that. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that Myers-Briggs personality test. There's 16 different personality types, and you get all these different letters, and I paid $50 to learn that I was a console, whatever that is. I'm quite certain my mom never took one of those tests, but I don't need her to take that test. I could look at the 16 personality types and I could tell you, and I feel I'm more qualified to do that than Myers and Briggs. I don't know who those people are, but I could tell you of those 16 what my mom was. My mom was a caregiver. And that's what I printed out here. This is the description of what a caregiver is according to Myers and Briggs. People with a caregiver personality type tend to be outgoing, loyal, organized, and tender-hearted. Caregivers gain energy from interacting with other people. They're typically described as outgoing and gregarious. They have a way of encouraging other people to be their best and often have a hard time believing anything bad about the people they are close to. Caregivers are naturally geared towards understanding other people. They're careful observers of others and are adept at supporting and bringing out the best in other people. Because they're so good at helping others feel good about themselves, people are drawn to caregivers. That describes my mom to a T. My mom put all her energy into me and my father, and my dad was more than a welcome recipient of all that, but I have to be honest, and sometimes I had to be boundaried, and I had to say, "Mom, you got to trust me to do this stuff. I'm an adult now. I appreciate everything." And, when we lost my dad, obviously that would be a big void for anyone, but now where is she going to channel all this energy? And it was interesting. Most of you know my dad got sick and passed before my mom. My dad died at 72 unexpectedly from liver disease. And for those of you who know my dad's a handful. Very nervous man, very high-strung temper. Yeah, and Rona's nodding like, hell yes. It was that bad even back then. I thought I brought it on. He did not take anything in stride. And he was faced with the news that he would die if he didn't get a liver, and he was on a liver transplant list. And you're either going to die or you're going to live, depending on how far you make it up that list. So imagine any normal person under those circumstances. Pause that story for a second. When me and my parents, when all three of us were on all three different horizons and didn't see eye to eye about anything, the one thing we all came together on is our 17-year-old dog, Benji. We love that dog so freaking much. We gave everything for that dog. We were all dog lovers. And eventually when Benji passed, my mom was done. You know, she's a dog lover, but she's done with accidents. She was done with walking dogs. She was done with the responsibility. And my dad always wanted a dog, and he always used to say, can't we get a dog, can't we get a dog? And she'd go, no, I'm not doing a dog. And then I got Yin Yang, who most of you know was a very handsome boy and a TV star. And so they got to vicariously have him as a grand dog, and then eventually Yin Yang passed, and then my dad got sick. And one day my mom says, I think we're gonna get a dog. And she never said it, but I certainly understood it, that it was my dad was so consumed with what was going on with his health that she thought, we'll get this dog, and we'll bring it into the house, it'll be a distraction. So they got this dog, Bailey, who I inherited. And as a side note, he always knew he was my boy somehow. He loved me the most from day one, and he's where he should be now. He's with me, I'm his daddy. But back then, he was more my dad's dog. And, Bailey knew it, my dad knew it, my mom was happy to give up that responsibility to my dad. And then my dad passed. So I kind of wondered, what will my mom do with Bailey? Is she going to find a home for it? Is she going to keep the dog? What is she going to do? But knowing the caregiver ways of my mom and it went the complete opposite direction into this weird codependent relationship with the dog. And I remember I would call my mom up back when she was doing well, and I'd say, yeah, Mom, I'm going to be in the suburbs. I was wondering if you wanted to meet for dinner tonight. This was back when she was still driving and she was well. And she's like, I would, but Wednesday is, they have the Mediterranean chicken on special at Wiener Take All, and that's Bailey's favorite. So I was really kind of hoping to eat with him tonight. But, maybe if we could schedule it for a different night. So, then I was taking second place to Bailey. So I visited my mom very often at Lieberman's, and somehow, somewhere in that facility, my mom found a baby, not a human freaking baby, what are you guys thinking? Like a toy baby, obviously. And it became sort of like Linus's blanket. She brought this, and so I look at her and she tells me, she goes, I had a baby. And I go, how did you have a baby at this point? She was like, I don't know, I have a baby now. And I said, what's the baby's name? And she said, the baby's Sunshine. So this was back when she was still doing a little bit better, and she would tell me about Sunshine. And one day I go to the nursing home, and she's upset. And I said, what's going on? And she said, Sunshine ran away. And I said, where? She goes, I don't know where Sunshine went. Sunshine ran away. So I went to Walgreens, and I bought another Sunshine. And we would kind of repeat the same pattern frequently. Like my mom would get like her food on it, and Sunshine would end up going to the laundry, and it wouldn't make it back to my mom somehow. And I'd go visit her, and she'd say, Sunshine ran away again. If any of you own Walgreens stock, and if it went up recently, I'm fairly confident it was for all the $14 Sunshines I had to buy when I went back to visit my mom, and somehow it got misplaced. But then the really weird freaking thing is one of the Sunshines must have mysteriously turned up, because I go to the nursing home one day and she has two Sunshines now. And I'm like, oh no, we're not doing two. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I don't know, I had another baby. And I'm like, no, that's too much work for you. I'll take this Sunshine home, and this is the real Sunshine. You need to take care of that Sunshine. And she went along with that. Some of you have probably been in a position like mine. I'm an only child. There's no one else to look after my mom. Some of you could only imagine. I had to be the advocate. I had to be the communication between her and her doctors. I had to talk to lawyers to protect the estate. I had to talk to the directors at the nursing home. I had to talk to hospice. I had to be my mom's communication, because she wasn't able to communicate herself, and I was one of the few people who knew what her wishes were. And as you all know, my mom was beautiful, she was fashionable, and I assure you, as important as all those responsibilities were, talking to the doctors and the lawyers, there was no responsibility that I lost more sleep over or took more seriously than talking to the hairdresser at Lieberman's about how my mom would want to wear her hair, because even though she didn't know the difference, I knew if she could like look down and see what they had their hairdresser, they made it like this like cleaning lady color. That's the only way I could describe it, and did like a 70s style curling. And I went, oh, absolutely not. We cannot. My mom, she'd have a fit if I let her look like this. So I had to advocate with her and the hairdresser. My mom was my best friend. I talked to everything with my mom. She was my confidant. There was no secrets that me and my mom had from each other. Needless to say, it's a huge loss for me. I remember, my mom, we were always there for each other. My dad did the best he could, but me and my mom knew we would always be there for each other. My mom got that award there that was mentioned earlier. She was the first teacher. I don't know if there's been anybody else since. She was the first CPS teacher to ever get that award in the whole entire district of Chicago in the whole history. It had only been given to principals and guidance counselors and things like that. And she almost had to retire early. My mom had a complete phobia about computers. Like most people of her generation, she never learned how to use a computer. She stayed away from the computer. She didn't want anything to do with it. And the attendance was going to move to the computer. The grades were moving to the computer. And she's like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to retire. I can't, I have no choice, and I can't do this. I go, Mom, that's ridiculous. She goes, I'm not good with computers. I said, if you never learned how to drive, you wouldn't say I'm not a good driver. You just never learned how. We're going to tackle this together. And I went and I bought her a computer and I set it up. And I said, it's not hard. We're going to go through it together. And I'm like, all right, double click on that icon right there. And she takes the mouse and she's going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And she can't line. And I'm like, maybe you had a point that you weren't that good with the whole computer thing. And it wasn't until I explained to her that you could do shopping on the computer and you could get the designer clothes instead of going to Marshall's. You could have it shipped right to your house. She thought, oh, well, maybe there's more to this computer thing than I thought. And she picked it up. I mean, she's not Bill Gates or anything, but she learned how to email, she learned how to shop, she learned how to do that. My mom, she never lost her sense of humor. My mom was funny. I remember I went to visit my mom at Lieberman's, and we had the TV on, and it wasn't the Olympics, but it was some sort of like gymnastics world championship thing. And you got to picture my mom at this point. She's wheelchair bound. She can't use the washroom. She could barely talk. And the gymnastics are on, and this woman, she's on that like horse thing and flipping all over the place. And it was so absurd that I didn't even get where she was going with it at first. She said to me, she goes, I could do that. I went, what? I thought she was like confused or something. She goes, no, I could do that. And then she started to laugh a little bit. I realized she was telling me a joke, because here she is. She couldn't do anything, and despite her condition, she found a way to make a joke and suggesting she could do what the gymnastics woman was doing. My mom became more politically alert or concerned or progressive in her later years. I find a lot of people get more conservative as they get older. My mom got more progressive, despite, not to the best of my knowledge, not having any gay people in our family. Well, there's one I kind of wonder about, but no out people. My mom would say, she goes, I just don't understand it. What is wrong with people that want to stop two people who are in love with each other being in love? That's terrible. it was of no consequence to her, but she was just so sympathetic, and she was so empathetic to anyone who was struggling. I took her to all her neurology appointments, and they would all the different doctors had the same series of questions to try to test my mom's alertness level. They would usually ask her name, where she was. There would be some sort of math question they would ask her. And then they would ask her if she knew who the president of the United States was. And this was during our current president's predecessor. I don't remember his name offhand. Anyway, they would say, do you know who the president of the United States is? And in her condition, she would roll her eyes, she'd go, ay vey, unfortunately. And that was something that came to her later in life. She realized if people were suffering in this country, people deserve medical insurance. People deserve to be in love. There's been an interesting thing that's been happening lately that I have no explanation for whatsoever. I'm on Facebook a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you are too, and like your fellow Facebook friends will show up on the right side that you could chat with. And my mom had a Facebook account, but she never used it, ever. And I never have seen her in that chat window before because she would never be on Facebook. And I was on Facebook 2 or 3 weeks after she died, and all of a sudden my mom's picture was there with the green dot saying Helene Chaseman was online. And I'm like, it's my mom checking in on me. I don't believe these things for a second, but I double-clicked on it, and I said, hey, Mom, thanks for checking in on me. I want to fill you in on this, this, and this. And I thought it was some sort of weird fluke. But ever since then, my mom keeps checking in on me on Facebook. Once a week or so, I show my mom's picture pops up there, and I fill her in on what's going on. And, I appreciate that she's figured out a way to stay in touch. I guess I just want to close with just thanking you all for coming out. Remember my mom's kindness and generosity. I would love to be able to say that my mom's in a better place right now. I don't claim to know how that mechanism works. In fact, I don't think it works that way, but I don't know. I can't say if she's in a better place right now, but I could say that the place we're in is a better place for having her in it. Her name won't be in any history books, but the lives she touched will be forever changed. And I just ask that you continue to remember her and take some of that with you. I'm going to do a song momentarily whenever Michelle introduces me, but thanks for listening. Thanks for coming out and remembering my mom.
Stuart, you're a tough act to follow.
Michelle warned me like 20 times to have everything written out in advance. I said, Michelle, I just don't roll that way.
It's fine. It's perfectly fine. Stuart has asked me to read an adaptation of a poem entitled Legacy of Love by an unknown author that describes Helene's devotion to her students. Legacy of Love, a wife, a mother, a teacher too. This is the legacy we have from you. You taught us love and how to fight. You gave us strength, you gave us might. A stronger person would be hard to find, and in your heart you are always kind. You fought for us all in one way or another, not just as a wife, not just as a mother, but also as a teacher. For all of us, you gave your best. Now the time has come for you to rest. So go in peace. You've earned your sleep. Your love in our hearts we will eternally keep. Helene was pragmatic, competent, and a problem solver. She could handle crises when everyone else would fall apart. She would matter-of-factly say, "Okay, guys, here's the plan. We're not going to worry about it. Everything will work out." With those kinds of skills, it naturally followed that she was the one her friends sought out for advice. Helene's longtime friend, Marilyn Strauss, described Helene as Miss Effervescence. She was always so enthusiastic, very personable, full of energy, and easily made friends wherever she went. She was also very generous. When she visited her friends, she would bring gifts for their children and grandchildren. As Stuart said, Helene was fashionable. I think fashionista would probably be a good word for her. It reminded everyone of Cher. At 70, Helene was youthful looking and acting. She always had her hair done, her makeup perfectly applied, and her clothes and jewelry well coordinated. When Stuart moved Helene into Lieberman, I helped him empty her house. Every closet was full of gorgeous clothes and accessories, all in petite sizes. I've never wanted to be petite so much in my life. Did I say she loved to shop? As Stuart mentioned, Helene had a phobia of computers, but once Stuart bought her a computer and taught her how to shop, she could shop online. She became the ultimate shopper. Shopping as much as she did, though, she often had a car full of clothes to return. I now invite Stuart to sing a song to honor his mother's memory. Do you want to do it now or later?
I didn't feel it coming.
Okay.
Check one. I did forget something I wanted to say. I should have wrote it down like Michelle said. Talking about my mom's exquisite fashion and everything. You know, my mom was from a generation that didn't really do the whole therapy thing in the way I certainly have been in therapy for all. Anyway, I convinced my mom after my dad died to go see this therapist, and we got a referral and everything. She made an appointment, and she went to the therapist, and I was really worried about how it would be. And she came home, and I said, how did the therapy go? And she said, you know, I think she might be a good therapist. I don't have anything to compare to, but, you know, the way she was dressed, like, I think I need to talk to her a little bit about that, because I think she needs to step it up a little bit. Do the vocals and guitar sing? The guitar sounds loud to me. Doesn't it? Drive me on, David, for fortress dead. Drink with heads drunk. It's life so unfair. Spark like the stranded. Like I'll drown. Tell me, where does your God go in an hour like this? Don't talk of his son. Give me a kiss. I thought I was on target. I know now I missed. I rolled the dice, but he broke my wrist. So leave her to heaven. So hard to see, reminding myself when I walked away. To witness such beauty, that's it straight, leave her to heaven. No, she can't stay. Stick with the knife of the blade of your tongue. Never forget where it is that you're from. Dreams are like shadows that never appear. Maybe just not. Treat Where in the crowd, where in the sky, leave her to heaven. It's time for goodbye. Leave her to heaven, belongs to the sky. Mysteries in her, deep in her eyes. Leave her to heaven, leave me right here, where darkness to the light will be the first to appear. Leave me with my whiskey, my poetry and verse. I tell you which your life that mine would be worse. I don't know how I was raised with this curse, the pools of frustration in which I burst. Leave her to heaven, leave me to hell. Got such a sweet little story to tell about a girl on the run, lost in a cell. Leave her to heaven, me where I feel. Leave her to heaven, belongs to the sky. Mysteries in her, deep in her eyes. Leave her to heaven, leave me right here, or darkness to the light, you're the first to hear. Gonna leave her, I'm gonna leave her. It's time for goodbye.
Stuart, thank you for that beautiful tribute to your mother. I'm sure she would have loved that. We are here to think about Helene's life and what she meant to each of us, to share and honor our memories of her. It is true that we are gathered in sorrow, that our hearts are heavy with the sharp awareness of the change that her absence has made and will continue to make in our own lives. But as Khalil Gibran reminds us, joy and sorrow sit as partners at our table, and that when you are sorrowful, look again into your heart, and you will see that in truth, you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of the memories we share may trigger tears, and others a smile. Some may bring laughter, which you know Helene would love to hear. When we leave here today, we will be sure to leave with warmed hearts and a sense of gratitude that this wonderful woman has touched our lives with kindness, with generosity, and with love. I met Helene a few times. I would go visit her at Lieberman, and I didn't know her before, but I could tell she was struggling to speak, but I could feel the warmth and the love, even though I didn't really know her, and I was sorry that I hadn't known her before. As time goes by, we will each determine Helene's legacy to our personal lives. The comforting words of the late author Leo Buscaglia are fitting. He said, "I know for certain that we never lose the people we love, even to death." They continue to participate in every act, every thought, and every decision we make. Their love leaves an indelible imprint in our memories. We find comfort in knowing that our lives have been enriched by having shared their love. Our lives are filled with memorable moments that we each seize and hold fast in our hearts. It is these moments that shape our thoughts, define our characters, and nurture our relationships. It is truly these same moments that cascade subtle nuances and impressions to those around us, creating memories. We are often remembered by what is important to us, both the simple and the extraordinary elements of our lives. When someone we love dies, we never really get over it. Our world has changed forever. The most we can hope for is to get through it finding our new normal. We don't get through it by forgetting, we get through it by remembering, and we are aware that no person is ever truly lost or gone once they have been in our lives and loved us as we have loved them. As long as we continue to talk about Helene and remember her, a part of her stays alive. As we continue on in our lives, we can draw strength from Helene and her legacy. We can choose to be aware of how she continues to deepen our own relationship to the living by all that she gave us and taught us in her lifetime here. I want to call on Matt Solis, a pastor, a friend of Stewart's. Is he here? Yes, Matt. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Well, one of the things I love about Stewart is just the eclectic nature of his friend group. That he has Michelle as a friend as well as myself, an evangelical pastor. And Stewart is definitely over the past, I guess, what is it now, 5 years, has become a very close friend. And I didn't get a chance to meet his mom, or I did get a chance to meet his mother, Helene, but I didn't get an opportunity to know her too well. But I spent a lot of time with Stewart over the course of these past 5 years, and it was interesting to watch their relationship change over the course of her health as it deteriorated. Before that, Stewart was always, talking to his mom, just as he mentioned in his time of sharing memories, that they were just constantly talking on the phone, constantly kind of being a person. What I saw for Stewart was this source of comfort. He always went to his mom with anything that he was struggling with, and she was always an ear for him. And then as his mom's health deteriorated, what I saw, like the subtle change, was that he began to be, that comforting person in her life. And it was really a privilege for me just to watch this son who, one of the 10 Commandments is to honor your father and mother, and just was a privilege to see the way that Stewart, I can't imagine loving my mom the way he did. He was just such a ferocious lover, willing to sacrifice his time, his evenings, and he spent so much time with her. And so I'm glad that I did get to meet Helene with Stewart and the Liebermans, and get a chance to be there together. And so as I thought about what to share today, I wanted to share a passage of scripture and decided to go with the 23rd Psalm. And so then I opened this up and I saw, oh man, it's here as well. And I think the reason why whoever was putting this together, it can be read multiple times. But I think the reason why this was included is because it's such a passage of not only hope, but also comfort. And so as I thought about how your mom went from your comforter to the one that you comforted, I thought that this was just a very appropriate passage, as knowing that she would even now would want you to know comfort. So this is a psalm of David that he wrote, a man who had many highs and lows throughout his life as king. And I just love that there's just this remembrance that God is near, and the broken, and the goodness in life and in death. So it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And I just love that word shepherd there. Like, it just reminds us of God's tender heart for us. "He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of his righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." And so we're even walking through that valley. You've been walking through that first with your father, and now these last year and a half with your mother, of day in and day out remembering her and remembering that loss. But I love the hope here. I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Even when we're not sure of his presence, even me as a pastor, I wrestle at times with, God, are you there? But I love that scripture reminds us that he's always there. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And that's that last, to me, beautiful reminder of this psalm, is that God is near in life and in death. And so I pray that each of you, as well as Stuart, would cling to God through this life, and he'll carry us through the next death as well.
Thank you, Matt. In recognition of the cycle of life and death, where the two are inextricably bound, Helene's spirit, energy, and presence persist even in her absence. Please join me in a responsive recitation of memory. It's not in their books, because I'm going to read a paragraph, and then I want your part is, as I cue you, you will say, "We will remember you, Helene." In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, in the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, in the blueness of the skies and with the warmth of summer, in the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, in all seasons, we will remember you, Helene. We shall remember the times of joy. We shall remember the times of pain. We shall remember those quiet times of peace, and we shall remember the grief of parting. In all emotions, we will remember you, Helene. For the examples lived among us, for the lessons taught and learned, for the concern felt about us, for the love shared with us, for all reasons, we will remember you, Helene. So long as we live, you too shall live, in that you are a part of all who have known you. We will remember you, Helene. I once read that it takes a minute to find a special person, an hour to appreciate them, a day to love them, but an entire life to forget them. May we never forget Helene as we continue our individual journeys connected by her spirit. May each of us continue to honor her memory in our own way with our own special remembrances of her. In our remembering her, we acknowledge that we each are who we are today because we knew Helene Chaseman. I now want to call on, we're going to have an open sharing in a minute if anyone else wants to talk, but I want to first call on Edie Kaufman, who will speak to us via Zoom, assuming the technology works.
So Stuart likes to say that he's an only child, and that's actually not entirely true. See, I'm Stuart's sister, not by blood, of course, but by a half a century of friendship and acceptance from Stuart, his mom, Helene, and his dad, Ed. See, I've known Stuart since we were 4 or 5 years old. We met in kindergarten, and we quickly became inseparable. I probably spent more time at his house growing up than I did at my own, and my parents allowed it because they met the Chasemans and they became good friends with them as well. When we moved from Niles to Buffalo Grove, it was just a short time before Stuart and his family followed and moved down the road from us. My mom knew Helene would always take care of me, and I considered her to be a second mom, just like Ed was a second dad, and Stuart's always been family to me. We could talk about what Helene was in terms of her being a treasured teacher, loving mom, devoted daughter and sister, and a caring wife. And you've certainly heard that here today. The great poet Maya Angelou once said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Helene made everybody feel accepted and loved. She had a sparkle in her eyes and a kindness in her heart that anyone who met her instantly sensed. She loved the cutest and sweetest dogs, from Benji to Bailey. She spent her life giving and caring for others. If you knew nothing else about Helene, you knew that when you were around her, you felt good. I've been watching the monarch butterflies come in my yard, and it makes me think Helene was very much like a butterfly. She was beautiful, full of energy, always moving around and spreading joy. And Helene needed that energy, quite frankly, to keep up with me and Stuart when we were young. And thankfully, she also had a very, very large store of patience, and she put up with a lot of our shenanigans. Like the time we pulled her mattress off the bed, and Stuart and I rode her mattress up and down the stairs many, many times, until Ed and Helene came home and found their mattress lying in the hallway. Most parents would have been pretty upset, but Helene took it in stride. Or the numerous times we would ruin the nice wax job that Helene would do on the wood floor when Stuart and I would pull each other on towels until we banged into the wall because it was so fun to be on such a slidey floor. There were also many numerous times that Stuart and I would stay up as late as we possibly could, watching every movie we could get our hands on. And then we would make our late night runs to the fridge and the freezer. Well, Helene had so graciously stocked it with all of our favorites, like Totino pizza rolls and Tombstone pizzas. In fact, the only time I ever remember Helene really getting upset was the time that Stuart and I went into her family car, and we were messing around, and we pushed the gear back into reverse, and the car rolled back into the street. And she came out and found us in the car in the street. She was not very happy for obvious reasons. But even then, when she tried to scold us, it just didn't really work that well, because the smile just could never leave her face for very long. Yeah, these are some of the fondest memories I have from growing up, is being with Stuart and his family and remembering how kind Helene was, how much I enjoyed being around her and Ed and Stuart. They were my second family, and they always will be. Helene had a sense of spirit and adventure, and she encouraged us to live life. When Stuart and I developed a love of music and concerts later in life, we would go and wait out for tickets, and she would be the one that would drive us. She would drive us to the mall with snacks and blankets, and she would come and pick us up after we would stay all night, staying on the sidewalk so we could get primo concert tickets. She was kind that way. And she encouraged us to do it because she knew it was something that we loved. When we were young and the Blues Brothers came out, and Stuart and I really, 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 really wanted to see that movie, and we couldn't because it was an R-rated movie and we were too young, Helene said, "I'll take you." And she bought us the tickets, and she got us in to see the movie, which is still arguably one of the greatest movies ever. So thank you, Helene, for that. Our families would go together on vacations. I remember Helene encouraging my family to go camping. We would go camping in Wisconsin, so Stuart and I could ride what looked at the time to be one of the biggest water slides I'd ever seen. In retrospect, it probably wasn't. We would get together, we would go as family and walk down to see the 4th of July together. We would go to family gatherings together. Stuart was always my date, and his parents always showed up for all of our family events. So I can't say enough about Helene. I see so much of Helene and Stuart, from his devoted friendship to the way that he lovingly cared for his mother when she was unable to care for herself. When I see the joy and smiles that Stuart brings to others when he performs, it reminds me of the joy and sparkle that Helene always had in her kind eyes. I know she's looking down on him now with the same love and adoration that she's always had for him. And Stuart, I know it's hard not to focus on the last few years of her life when she declined, because that's what's most fresh in your mind, and that was painful and it was difficult to go through. But the totality of her life, the totality of her memories are all of her life and all of the good experiences we had with her and all of the love. And yes, she was taken too soon. If she had lived to be 110, she would have been taken too soon because we loved her. So I hope that hearing today the words of people coming from their hearts and hearing how much of an effect that she had on people that she knew well and people that she barely knew, will give you some comfort and make you realize that she's always here. Although her spirit has left her body now, her warm energy will always be around us. So every time you see somebody hugging their child, you see a random act of kindness, or you see a butterfly floating around in the air, you know that that's a little bit of Helene sending you a message that she's still here. She's still watching over you, and she is still making this a better world. Rest in peace, mom number 2. Love you.
Yeah, they did. Sure. You didn't hear it. You didn't hear it, but yeah. And I hope you can hear me, Edie, but I thank you for that beautiful tribute to Helene. I now want to invite Ben Salzberg to speak, share his memories about Helene.
Thank you for allowing me up here, Stuart. Well, who is Helene Chaseman? Everything that we heard, right? When I first met her, and Stuart introduced me to his mom and dad. We walked into the house and they said, "Do you want anything to eat? Have you eaten anything?" And I'm like, "Well, it's like 9 o'clock at night." I'm like, "I'm a little hungry, maybe." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe I can have like a little something if you don't mind." Because I was like just a little hungry, and they were so giving and they were so kind. I mean, they fed me everything from the refrigerator because that is who she is. She wanted me to know how loving and caring she was. Because they always say, right, the love to the man's heart is through his stomach. And that's what she did. Because from there on, she was, words to me really cannot describe to who she was, because she was a kind and selfless individual. No matter what activity, by the way, I was involved in. I mean, Stuart and I did job fairs, promotional events. I was in state parades. I was running for state senate. She was there for me no matter what. And she would give everything to me. And Stuart was with me. We did a lot of events together. She was an unbelievable person. And I have a few degrees, and one of the degrees was in teaching. And I got a master's in teaching. And she was always telling me about her experiences, about what I should watch out for, educating me in my future in teaching. And she was so passionate and so kind that I can't go beyond to describe who she was as an individual. You know, when we talk about like Stuart, you know, she didn't win, you know, Nobel Prize, you know, winner. You know, she didn't do this. What she did was to enrich my life and going forward, and that enriches my own daughter's life and other people's lives because I have a piece of her with me as well. You know, I viewed her, you know, more than just a friend. She was a part of my family. I will always miss her smile and kindness. You know, she will always be missed for me. You know, I looked at Stuart's family because I've known Stuart for so long, and every time I saw Helene, she would like hug and kiss me, and she always would have that beautiful smile on her face, and I remember that, and I will always remember that. And you know, I think that to take away from this entire gathering here is that Helene has been loved and loved by many, many people. And I love her a lot. And when I was at your house, and I look at you as a brother, I do. And in my heart, I know that she's always been with me, and I always will remember her. And I appreciate her having, and I'm lucky that God gave me her in my life. And there are not many people, good people like her in the world. And you have to take that into account, that we know a great person, and that person will always live forever. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come up and say something?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Tomas, and how I know Stuart is that he and I are soul brothers. We're always helping each other walk on the right path of life. And as I know just, I guess, the tip of the iceberg about Helene Chaseman, it has really stayed with me, and I know it will stay with me for the rest of my life. I've had the privilege of meeting and visiting with Stuart's mom, Helene, on a few occasions. Meeting her and Ed, and now I remember, I already forgot, the dog's name? Benji, Bailey, okay. And Stuart at the Custer Street Art Fair right in my neighborhood. Ed's funeral in Shiva, and perhaps a couple of other times. And I have two very fond memories of her that I'll share. My mother passed the same year that Ed passed, and we had the honor of her and Stuart's company having them over with my family for Thanksgiving the year that Ed had passed. And what I'll say is the character traits of Helene that I experienced are what I call true blue friendship, and the love connected with that. As we all ate and got to know each other over Thanksgiving dinner, and I don't know when it was, maybe it was when the pumpkin pie and the ice cream, I could see that look in her eyes. I believe it was the look of acceptance, love, and maybe even pride. I felt taken in by Helene as a son myself. Towards the end, I was fortunate to visit Helene in the care facility on one of Stuart's music nights. I was deeply touched and moved with emotion with her reaction to seeing me. She cried what I believe was tears of joy, and we exchanged our mutual love through our extended gaze. Helene is the shining life example of connection and love. Thank you for listening and letting me share.
Is there anyone else who would like to share some memories? If you feel you have, okay, come on up, don't be shy. All I was going to say is that if you feel you don't want to talk in front of everybody, you can have time at the reception later to talk to Stuart one-on-one. I'm sure he'd love to hear your memories of Helene.
I actually wasn't going to come because I am so damn terribly shy, and Stuart is a tough act to follow, but oh. Helene deserves it, though. Mrs. Chaseman deserves it. I know Stuart because we were college roommates, and I met Mrs. Chaseman because she came to the dorm one day, and she was probably delivering some clean laundry and some snacks for Stuart, which she snacks? No, snacks, food. And she was incredibly nice to me, which we've heard over and over again today, even though she, had all the reason to resent me because Stuart had a double room to himself for at least a couple of months or something. All of a sudden I knocked on the door and, one day and it's like, oh, I've got a new roommate, great. But I think Mrs. Chaseman thought potentially that, after meeting me that, and I hope so, that I would be good for Stuart. She thinks she saw a lifelong friend in me, and Stuart has been good for me. And knowing Mr. and Mrs. Chaseman growing up, I didn't get to see him recently as much as I would have loved to because I moved abroad, but I know that if I walked through the door, there would be that huge hug, that huge kiss on the cheek, because there was just endless love in your mom. And one of my favorite memories of your mom was actually at one of your birthdays. I think you did one of your concerts in Rogers Park along Sheridan Road. And I just remember your mom was sitting up in the seats in front of me, and she was just going crazy, like just your biggest fan was there cheering you on. Well, she was your biggest fan for sure. And I just, that was like the personification of her as your biggest fan, your mom, and it brings me joy to think of her seeing you and having the greatest time watching her son up there performing. And she will be missed, but I'm glad that she brought you into my life, and I wish I would have been able to see her a little bit before she left us way too soon.
I started the service by reading an interpretation of A Woman of Valor, using the line, "A woman of valor makes the world change." It is obvious from listening to all of you talk that Helene Chaseman made your worlds change. Cherish those memories. Those are really beautiful to have. We are here to celebrate Helene's life, but we come also to mourn. To mourn in the silent, empty spaces once filled with her smile, her companionship, her friendship, and her love. To mourn the loss of her physical presence, and to mourn for the times when her presence will be sorely missed. Those times when her family and friends mark the passages of their lives. At those times, when we start to remember her and feel sad, let's just flip it over and think about all the happy times, the fun times, and some of you have shared some beautiful memories about Helene. And that's important to remember, the good times, because that is how Helene made your world change. Many people call the Jewish prayer the Kaddish prayer a prayer for the dead, but nowhere does it mention death. However, the prayer entitled God Full of Compassion speaks of how Helene's soul, having sojourned in the physical world, is now restored to the everlasting source of life, to the continuum of being, reality, and holy presence. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May the memory of Helene Chaseman be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of her love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all her worthy and righteous deeds. May the bond of love we shared with our beloved Helene be not severed in sorrow. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. As we prepare to recite the Kaddish, we are reminded that this prayer never mentions death, but we use it to remember our dead. We insist on saying that life is good and worth living. And we insist on holding fast to our dreams and ideals of what life could be in the best of all possible worlds. Let's see. I will read it in English, and then I will invite you to stand and recite it with me in the Hebrew from your service booklets. Exalted and hallowed be God's greatness in this world of your creation. May your will be fulfilled and your sovereignty revealed in the days of our lifetime, and let us say, Amen. May you be blessed forever, praised and honored, extolled and glorified, adored and exalted above all else. You are blessed beyond all blessings and hymns, praises and adorations that may be uttered in this world, and let us say, Amen. May abundant peace descend from heaven with life's goodness for us and for all the world, and let us say, Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say, Amen. I invite you to rise, and if you wish to recite the Kaddish with me, please do so, keeping in your hearts your memories of Helene, and also keeping in your hearts your memories of other loved ones who, as long as you keep it in your hearts, a part of them still lives. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ba'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yahei shmei rabbah mevarach la'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitparar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalel shemei dekutsha barichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yahei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You may be seated. Helene was and always will remain a blessing in our lives. Treasure Helene's memory. Hold those memories close to you still. You will carry Helene with you always in your heart. The sharp edges of this pain, this relentless sadness will, in due time, give way to something gentler, something more bearable. Let all the memories we each have of Helene Chaseman be a blessing for each of us as we keep those memories in our hearts, pulling them out whenever we want to, accessing them unexpectedly sometimes. May those memories offer us comfort. May those memories bring a smile to our faces. May those memories inspire us to live our lives in ways that honor Helene's memory. As you return to the routines of your lives, go in love, and may an abiding peace go with you. This concludes our service celebrating the life of Helene Chaseman, and on behalf of Stuart, again, I thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Memorial contributions in Helene's memory can be made to Dementia Society of America. That information is available in the service folders that we handed out today. And for those of you who are joining us online, on behalf of Stuart, I want to say thank you for joining, and you can find that information on the website as well. In a few moments, I'm going to ask everybody to rise as we escort Stuart out. Shiva's just across the lobby. May need a couple moments just to collect your thoughts, but then I'm sure he would appreciate everybody coming over and sharing more personal thoughts, and certainly noshing. This does conclude our service. Thank you. If you could please rise.